You cut it before the whole intro?
I don't know. I did it by accident.
Welcome to live television. Here we are, Monster Manor. You guys know all about that stuff anyway, right? We'll fix it in post. So, a very special episode of Monster Manor. We normally, as you know, have our episodes on Saturday. But when you have a guest like we have today, you basically take them whenever you can. So, many of you know our guest tonight as the Scope Zombie. And I found out in my research that there's a lot more going on here. So, I am so excited to bring you our good friend here, Bob Michelucci.
Hi, guys. Nice to be with you guys.
Thank you. I know you are busy, busy, busy. Thank you for taking time to come on our show and promote all of the appearances. You're going to be at Phantasm, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Well, thank you for having me. I can't wait for Phantasm. It's been 2 years now, almost, since I'm supposed to be down there. So, a couple weeks away.
Yeah, yeah, and we're in the final stretch. That becomes the hairy times. So on our show, we like to do a little bit more than just talk about what people do know, and that's why I do my research. But the thing that's very hard in research is finding what you were like as a kid, because we're all big monster kids. But how did we get our starts? And I'd love to hear your story about what got you into this crazy field.
I was a monster kid too. When I was going to grade school, when I was in second grade, probably. I can't remember the year, but there was an old fashioned drugstore across the street from my grade school, and in the window were these magazines hanging, and they were famous monsters. Mm-hmm. So I asked my mom one day for 35 cents if I could, to buy one. And I went into the store, and here he had 3 or 4 different issues. So now I had to choose which issue. So the actual first issue I ever bought was issue number 17 with the Bride of Frankenstein on the cover. And I think what caught me was the Dorian Gray photo that was on the inside cover that Dick Smith did. And then I was hooked. So from then on, it was every month looking for the new issue, and then growing up, it wasn't just Famous Monsters, but Castle of Frankenstein, Fantastic. All of a sudden, there were tons of titles that were coming out, horror monsters, mad monsters, and I was buying them all. Yeah. I had my parents were, great with that. My mother always liked the movies and Hollywood, so she enjoyed reading the magazines, and so that was great. So and my dad would drive me around to the little stores to see who might have gotten which magazine in every week. So it was a lot of fun. So that was the start, and then every week I would go downtown with my grandmother, and she would buy me a model kit. All the monster model kits were coming out at that time, the Frankenstein, Dracula, and everything. So, and again, there was the monster craze in the 60s growing up. So there were so many toys and birthdays and everything. I probably had them all. Wish I had them now, but so that was the beginning of everything. And I just, I always had the entrepreneurial thing in me. I do backyard carnivals for muscular dystrophy, just all kind of things. So I just always felt like, well, I wanted to, do a magazine someday like Famous Monsters. So that was the early beginning.
Yeah. They inspired a lot of monster kids. The thing is it was a good time. Like you said, we were in the era of the whole shock theater releases, the re-releases. You could turn on TV and see Zachary or any of the other horror hosts. So it was a really good time to be exposed to that sort of thing. And I don't think it's ever really found a repeat.
No, I don't think so. And as much of the social media as there is today, it's completely different. I mean, we were all doing it independently. not knowing other than maybe the person's names through Famous Monsters when they'd be mentioned that they were doing certain things too, making 8mm home movies and fanzines and everything else. So, we really, didn't talk to one another much other than through the media like that until we all got older and some of the conventions started. I think Famous Monsters was probably one of the first conventions that ever happened. I couldn't talk my parents into driving me to New York for that, but I think that was where the fans just finally were able to start to get together and know one another.
Right. I think we have a picture, if you put it up already, of Forey Ackerman.
I do.
That is, I want you to tell us what your feelings were meeting Ackerman that first time.
Well, actually, I had talked to him a number of times on the telephone first, because the first project that I ever decided to work on was the Collector's Guide to Monster Magazines, because Overstreet had the comic book guide out for prices, and there was nothing to tell me what my Monster Magazine collection was worth. Mm-hmm. So I decided I wanted to do that, and I couldn't get any of the major publishers to publish it. So I decided to try and self-publish it. So, first thing I did was I sent out a questionnaire to as many of the different comic book stores around the country that I could find, asking them what they sold different issues of the different magazines for. And most of them all sent me back, this was all through the mail back then. They all replied on, and so I got an average of what these magazines were being sold for. And then when I wanted to do the book, I contacted all of the magazine publishers for their permission to reprint the covers of their issues in my guide. And everybody was gracious. I mean, Larry Brill from Monster Times and Fred Clark, everyone except Jim Warren. I got a letter back from Jim Warren saying, no, you can't do it. He said, you have to pay me. And he wanted a fortune. He said, well, add it up. He said, how many of those covers in your book are actually Warren covers? So if it's 80% of your book, then I want 80% of the money. So it went crazy. Well, we finally worked out a deal where he was going to take $1,000. He said, well, send me the check. So we put in the letter that once he cashed the check, we had the rights. And we went ahead and published the book. Well, he never cashed the check. So he was just there to aggravate everybody. So, and later on, I did meet him because when we were publishing Questar, and we'll get into that later, Larry Flint actually bought the distribution company that we were all with. Famous Monsters, Warren, us, we were all part of the same distribution company. So they flew us all out to Beverly Hills, all the publishers, to see their offices. And then he had a party on his veranda, a dinner. And don't they sit us with Jim Warren? So that was pretty uncomfortable, but and he right away said, what's your name? So, well, my lawyer said I can't talk to you. So that was how that evening went. So, but beyond that, we got beyond it, and we got to produce the magazine. But Forey was instrumental in talking Warren into letting me do this. He actually was like comparing it to the Scott's stamp catalog and everything. He said, well, if the government didn't let them reproduce the stamps, nobody would know what they ended up, so it was that. So he was really in my corner. And so then I was putting on a convention because let me backtrack. We got to go meet Forey in LA, and my wife and I actually stayed at the Acker Mansion for a week, with him and Wendy. So that was an experience. I'm in my 20s, and just in awe of this guy and the house, and and them taking us to dinner and everything. So it was a wonderful experience. And then in 1978, I decided one of the things while I was out there is he took us to the Bonaventure Hotel. and there was a big convention there, and I had never been to one. And it was a guy by the name of Doug Wright back then was putting them on. And Christopher Lee was one of the guests there, and they were doing live casts and everything. So it was amazing. So then I decided, well, I want to do one of these in Pittsburgh too. So, we planned one of those, and we had Forey as one of the guests. And that shot that you showed was he and Wendy as a guest at our show here in 1978 in Pittsburgh at the Fantasy Film Celebrity Con, and he coined that term. So, but it was. It was meeting one of my childhood heroes that I'd grown up with.
Yeah, and the thing I love about any story you ever hear about Forey Ackerman or Bob Burns, they are as nice as they would be. They're so open and caring for everyone. And we're just monster kids, but there's like that family bond.
Oh yeah, it was exactly. I mean, he was just everything. He was the complete opposite of Jim Warren. He was just everything you would have imagined, and just out to help everybody. And it's a shame because I'm sure he was taken advantage of a few times, just because he was so nice with everybody. But that comes with the territory, But one thing it taught me was when someone gets in touch with me to see if I'll help them out or do something, I try to do it because I sort of like to pass it forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially with the classic horror and stuff like that, it's an honor to be able to do that, to be a torchbearer, because you don't want these monsters to die. They were the backbone of Universal and American International and Hammer. It would be a shame for people just not to even think that they were relevant anymore.
Oh, exactly, and it's a shame because I just saw a couple weeks ago that Universal closed the Monster Cafe, uh, which is to our generation, it was wow. You're taking away the monsters that built the studio. Be careful with that. I think you should have been able to find room to put whatever you're replacing with somewhere else and keep that.
Well, there have been rumblings. They are doing an expansion. They're actually currently working on it. They haven't made any kind of secret about it. It's called Epic Universe. Now, the big talk now is that at Epic Universe, there's supposed to be a whole section that's dedicated to Universal Monsters. And that's why they closed the Monsters Cafe, because eventually all that's going to move over to the other park. Again, that's speculation, but they've already filed all the paperwork and permits that they're doing it.
Well, that would be fantastic if that comes to be.
Yeah, and then we'll have to have you down and we'll go together.
Yeah, I mean, my Scoop Zombie baseball card, it's probably still pinned up in the Monster Makeup Show because last time I was down there, I got to talk with the makeup guy there, and he found out that I had published Tom's and Dick Smith's books, so I gave him one of my cards, and he pinned it up there on the set. So that was fun.
Oh wow! Yeah, well, I mean, again, I know we're coming up on our first break. We're about 15 minutes in, but if you stick around just for a little bit longer, we'll have this short break, and we'll come back and talk a little more about what made you famous for most of the people was your appearance in Dawn of the Dead. So we'll talk about that when we come back, if that's okay with you.
That's great. Thanks.
All right.
Monster Manor TV, the official podcast of Phantasm Orlando, presents The Road to Phantasm. Leading up to Phantasm 2022, August 19th through 21st, Monster Manor's own Scott Fenster will be interviewing some of this year's guests, including Bob Michelucci, Scope Zombie, renowned publisher and artist, Friday, August 5th, 5 p.m. Eastern. Actor Eugene Clark, Big Daddy from George Romero's Land of the Dead, Saturday, August 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Bill Slevin, Paranormal Investigator, Wednesday, August 10th at 9 p.m. with guests Chris McKinnon and Joe Frank. More guests to be announced soon. Follow our Facebook page at Monster Manor 1313 for updates. We'll see you at Phantasm Orlando soon.
You good?
We're back. You can signal me,
If
producer
you don't
lady.
hear the commercial running, it's your turn to go, buddy. You're
Yeah.
on. You need to know when to be on.
Well, yeah. Go on 3 hours sleep.
You've had
So
enough coffee today to kill a donkey. I think you'll do it.
we're gonna try. So again, thank you. We're with Bob. It threw me. Michelucci. And we're going to be talking next about his film work, most notably in Dawn of the Dead. So tell me, Bob, how did that come about? How did you get tapped to play that most famous scope zombie?
Well, that started with Tom Savini. Everything sort of works its way together. Once I had published the Collector's Guide to Monster magazines, I worked for an art studio, an ad agency back then. So, that was my full-time job. And one day I came back from lunch, and Tom and Jeannie Jeffries actually were both sitting there waiting to see me. And I had never met him before. And he's there with a box of famous monsters because he had just picked up my book and wanted to show me his collection of famous monsters. So that's where we first met. And we just built up a friendship from there. My offices, when I was at the art studio, were actually 5 doors down from George Romero's offices. So they were that close. And I guess Tom had already been working with George because they were just beginning to talk about doing Dawn of the Dead. And so through the friendship, at one point, Tom and George, they got in touch with me. I got to meet George, but they got in touch with me, and that's a shot of us on the set of Dawn to see if we wanted to be zombies. They needed a bunch of zombies, for different shots. So there was a group of about a dozen of us that worked together, knew one another, that all went out the one evening and all got made up to be zombies, including my wife and the guy I worked with, and Dick Stinak, and he passed away a couple of years ago. But so while we were there, Jeannie was doing a lot of the makeup too. And because I knew them, I got to be a special zombie. So that's where the scope zombie came into fact. So then when we're on the set, which was being filmed actually in Monroeville Mall, my scene was shot in front of Equibank at the time. And so I'm standing on the corner of the bank. George is across from me. I'm all hooked up with these wires, and the way the scope thing was done was I had a button with makeup over it and mortician's wax with a thread that Tom was standing there across from me. So they, when I heard the gunshot and the squib explode, they would have pulled that, and then George said, fall down. So I'm ready to go. And then all of a sudden, I'm thinking, well, do I fall backwards, forward? What am I supposed to do? It's like, bam, and I'm down. It was that quick, So that was my quick claim to fame in the movies, the whole full screen headshot, which was who knew over 40 years later that anybody would have remembered any of that. But and back when the conventions were going on in the late 70s and early 80s, there was really no big deal about Dawn of the Dead or even Night of the Living Dead much back then. So people weren't going after autographs. We never even gave it a second thought. It was just we were there having fun. So it was a good time. And it was just later on that things started to snowball. So, and all the different guys and girls that were in the film just started, nicknaming their own characters, I guess, like the nurse zombie and this and that. So the Harry Krishna zombie, Mike's going to be at the show. So and that's where that came from. We just all started printing up 8x10s and doing our thing. So, but I think it was most of us didn't know one another during the filming of the movie. It's only because of the conventions that we all became friends and got to really know one another and be closer.
Yeah, and no one could have had an idea that it would have exploded into this cult following and spawned. I mean, let's face it, if there was no Night of the Living Dead, there would be no probably Walking Dead or Land of the Dead or any of the
No,
movies with World War
exactly.
Z. I mean, it
Well,
was
again,
groundbreaking.
because of the way that famous monsters and we monster kids grew up with that. People like Greg Nicotero grew up with Romero films, and
Right.
again, that's why he's doing what he's doing. So it's all fun, and then eventually, like within a year, we moved our offices from 5 doors down into the same building as George. So we were on the first floor with Questar magazine that we had begun to publish, and George was on the fifth floor. So and Rick Catazone and the animators that did a lot of the animation for Creepshow 2, they were like in the middle of the building. So we were all in the same building. So we spent a lot of time together, hanging out, which was, back then, again, you weren't even giving it a thought. It was like, see George every day, and Chris and Mike Gornick, and Ben Cervinsky. And the one other story about the Questar offices on the first floor was we stored all of our back issues of the magazine in the basement. So every day, when we were doing mail order, there were these rickety steps. We'd walk down the steps to get magazines, bring them back up to pack them, and move. Well, it wasn't until years later that we realized that was the basement in Night of the Living Dead. No one ever told us when we were there. So that was, I found that out years later. Yeah. Never, ever realized it.
Wow. Well, here's one question. Since you knew George probably as good as anyone, did he ever realize that, it was just a zombie movie and the teenagers were watching it? Adults, I don't know. But, the teenagers loved this film. And yet it had such a civil rights statement in it that is overlooked by people today because it's been made normal. But he had a lead actor in Night of the Living Dead, Ben, that was a black man right during the civil rights movement. Did he know what he was doing with that, or what were his thoughts on that?
It's hard to speak for him, but from the stories that I've heard, it's like it wasn't anything specifically done on purpose. It was just he happened to be the best actor for that part. And not until after the movie came out did, the talk about that really go on. Now, I think, a lot of George's movies had political statements, so I'm sure there was something, in that and Dawn and a lot of them that, they had some reasoning behind, what he was doing, which was what made him such a great independent filmmaker, because he was able to, take his ideas and bring them to life, without the major backing of Hollywood, at least he was able to get Richard Rubenstein to partner up with him on Dawn and a couple of the other films, so that they could get a bigger budget to work with. So, so it was, that would be my answer. But it was fun just having the offices there. I remember when they were working on Creepshow, one day we opened the door and there's Stephen King came down to see us in our offices. And again, there's no photos because there were no cell phones or cell phone pictures, still no internet pretty much, so I mean, it was still all, just, and no one carried a camera with them everywhere they went. So it was just now the memories of so much of this went on.
Yeah. I was privileged to meet Uncle George once, and meeting him, I did not realize until the man stood up we call him a giant. He really was a giant.
Well, you saw the photo. I'm short, so I'm only 5'4". So, he was like a foot taller than me.
Yeah, he's a tall man. He was, even when I saw him, he was older, but he was still strong and sharp and just witty.
And he was always smiling.
Yes, and very, very supportive of the next generation that was coming up, because he was aware that I was a special effects artist, and I showed him my model that I had with me, and he was just so nice. He always wanted to lift up those coming after him, and that's a rare thing.
Yeah. He was always just genuinely nice, especially when he started to build a fan base. Because in '93, I also produced the Zombie Jamboree, the 25th anniversary for Night of the Living Dead, and that was the first time that we got the cast back together since the movie. And obviously, he was the main draw, and then Carl and Marilyn and everyone else were secondary. And part of the deal was that, every day during the show, we had it was way different back then. We had an autograph area where for 1 hour a day, each of the celebrities would sit there and sign autographs for nothing. This was, one autograph per person, was part of your admission price. And George is the only one that wouldn't limit it. He said, I'll sign whatever anybody wants for as long as anybody wants me to sign. So he did that every day, but just to show you how shows have changed in the past so many years.
I can understand that, a lot of the people that are doing these shows, expenses have all gone up.
Right.
But yeah, there was that time that people don't remember, like even the main science fiction conventions, the horror cons, a lot of them were just grateful to have a fan following, and they were signing for free.
They were, because most promoters were willing to cover their expenses. So their food, their hotel, and their transportation was covered. So they're getting a free trip, and they get to spend time with fans and other professionals. That was enough back then. That's what everybody enjoyed doing. And, and somewhere along the line, back in the 80s, that's what happened with the baseball card collector shows, is the ball players started charging way more, and then specific prices for a photo versus a bat or a baseball and everything. So it's a fine line. And then in the past few years, I guess the photo op opportunity has come up too. So there's a lot of changes in industry.
I think probably one of the biggest quantum leaps, the reasons that they had to charge more, is that people were getting very selfish with autographs and going to Toy Shop magazine or going to auction houses and auctioning them off for these exorbitant prices.
Well, that was the other change, that early shows, the people getting the autographs were collecting them for themselves because they liked the celebrity. Most of them, the autographs, if you look at the early autographs, they were all made out to someone, because no one was saying just sign your name. They wanted it made out. Most of my autographs were all made out to me, because that was the whole purpose, is to show, hey, this guy, I met them, and they actually signed his picture to me. So I think, yes, you're right, that changed. And I think it changed with the dawn of social media and the internet and eBay and everything else, where all of a sudden people found out, hey, I can make money off of these.
Yeah. That's always the downfall of it.
Yeah.
So, post Dawn of the Dead, you got more into publishing than before.
Yes.
And I got to show these for those that don't know, but these were the books. And we'll definitely talk more about this after our next break as well. But, how many people had the Dick Smith Monster Makeup book or Bizarro? These were amazing. And there was a second edition to this as well. This one I still have signed by Tom Savini. But, the impact, and I have to thank you for all us monster kids as well, because the impact that you had on that generation, between Forey Ackerman kind of lighting the torch and then passing it off to someone like you that took that to the next level and got it out to more and more people. I have to thank you for that, because back then, this was it. There was no internet for that sort of thing.
I thank you, and especially with the Dick Smith book. I grew up with that as the magazine that Warren Publishing had put out. And that one had been long out of print. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to bring it out as a trade paperback, and it started with, I think the first book that I did I hope I'm not getting them out of order, was the Night of the Living Dead film book with John Russo. It might have been Tom's book, The Grand Delusions, but however they worked out, we did the Grand Delusions book. I had that idea that I proposed to Tom, because Dick's was about more simple makeup, and Tom was going to be more special effects out to. It's with Dick Smith.
I'll show some of these pictures while you're telling your story.
Those are part of the Dick Smith book, yeah, that I grew up with. And when I talked to Dick, he said, yeah, we'll do it. He said, but I don't want to have to do any work. Just publish it the way it is. And then I got a phone call from him like within a week that said, no, you can't publish it the way it is. I looked through it. I need to update it. So he did do a lot of work to update the book, and we were able to put it out. So you have Grand Illusions, then we did a book 2. Bizarro is actually Grand Illusions under a different title, because Harmony Books wanted the rights to put it out, and they already had a book called Grand Illusions that was a novel, so they couldn't put it out under the same title, and so they changed it to Bizarro. And then they put out the Dick Smith book, and they changed the cover on that. And then they put the Night of the Living Dead film book out, and they have a different variation of cover on that. So it was an interesting time to be working with Harmony Books, and they were actually a division of Crown Publishing. And again, even today, so many of those big New York publishers have been gobbled up by bigger, so there are way fewer publishers that you could even deal with in today's world. So that was, that's how all of those books sort of came to be. And that's how a friendship was built with Dick Smith too. So he was another one that was out there willing to help any of the up and coming young people, that were interested in special effects or makeup.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I took the Dick Smith professional makeup course, and even after his passing, and then correspondence, yeah, which is a very unique concept for the people nowadays, because everything's done, But I was fortunate to take his class, and the generation right before me, or not even really within like 5 or 6 years, they all had his number. So I mean, they could pick up the phone and talk to him.
Just like Corey.
Yeah. I mean, it was he accessible.
Well, that's it. If you would see, I still have. I don't know if it's with here, but I have a couple of my old. I thought I had it handy, but anyway, a couple of my old phone books. And you just look through it and you'll see Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, William Shatner. I got all of these home phone numbers that we used to just call, Yeah, well, I mean, I called Christopher Lee once because I wanted him to do an introduction to a book that I had published called Eroticism in the Fantasy Cinema. And I got his phone number from Forey Ackerman. And so I'm like in my 20s. I'm stupid. I was like, I call his number, right? And I'm expecting somebody to answer his phone. And I get, hello, with this deep voice. It's like, so I asked Mr. Lee, yes, who's speaking? And I tell him, he said, okay. He said, first question, where did you get this number? So I threw Forey Ackerman under the bus. He said, well, I'll deal with him later. Now, what can I help you with? And he was just so cordial, And so was Vincent Price. Vincent Price wrote the introduction to the Forey Ackerman book that I published, and he was just wonderful. And he did it for nothing. They both did it for nothing, just to help a young kid out, And I built up a friendship with Vincent Price too, and I got to meet him. He was here in Pittsburgh in a play called Charlie's Aunt with Carell Brown and Roddy McDowell, and so I had done an illustration of him and all his different characters. And it was about like an 18 by 24 pencil illustration. So I took it there with me, and he was kind enough, actually, you can see it there. He was kind enough to sign the piece for me. I still have it hanging in my house. And another big guy, by the way. But he was just a nice guy. And then he signed, I think, 100 book plates for us. I never even kept one for the Forey book, that went out to the first 100 orders, I think. So I'd be curious to see if anybody has one of those.
Well, we're going to do our second break now. We're almost, I guess we're close to a little over the minute. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your publishing, your beautiful paintings, and what's in store for the future. So after these breaks, we'll come back and talk with you about that.
Great.
Hello. So see, we're back, and I saw my cue. So yeah, we're talking with not only Scope Zombie, but publisher. Now this is where it gets interesting because we talked about the books in the last segment, but you've also done so many like iconic in the '90s, especially Scream Queens and all of the earlier stuff that you did. These were all on newsstands, just similar to what we had with Forey Ackerman's famous Monsters of Filmland. In this later generation, we were able to see these other things. How did you make that transition from the classic monster stuff to like the Scream Queens and that? Or were they very related?
Well, I guess the Scream Queens was sort of related because at the time, the B movie craze with video had come out, and so the B movie craze had just started, and certain women like Brink Stevens and Linnea Quigley, were sort of the queens of that generation's B movies. And they were doing a lot with Fred Olen Ray and Jim Wynorski and people like that. So we figured, well, there's got to be a market, but we wanted to do it in a classy way. So we decided to try and pattern it sort of after Playboy, but for the B movie horror crowd. So we did a very slick magazine. All of the photographs, although there was a lot of nudity in the magazine, we also had fiction and interviews and everything else. But mostly all of the photographs were studio photographed. We had a photographer in Hollywood that was, making appointments with the different ladies, and he would go. They would go and they would do a session. And, we had specifically had it done for the magazine. So, and then we would choose, who was on the cover of that particular issue or who was in the, we did a centerfold. We did a 3-fold centerfold, just like Playboy. And, we did 20 some issues. So it did well. And then we also expanded into the trading card market. We had already done the Night of the Living Dead trading cards. And the You Slay Me set, which was patterned after the old Jack Davis You'll Die Laughing. So we did those. We did the Dark Shadows. Yeah, that was the most fun set. And so we decided to start a series of Scream Queens trading cards. So the first series did so well that we ended up doing, I think, 5 different series of the Scream Queens cards, and then we expanded into autograph cards and lip print cards, signed cards, and everything else. So it was just a whole, we made most of the money from Scream Queens Illustrated through mail order, people that were buying the videos and the different things through the magazine, and prior to that, when we did Questar, we did a lot of mail order, and we were selling a lot of Dawn Post masks back then that are really popular again now, but and we had them all at one time. So again, who knew that 40 years later there would be people collecting those masks again. So
Oh yeah.
so many fans today weren't even born when Dawn of the Dead came out, or the Dawn Post Mask, and Questar was being published, but there's a whole resurgence of fans, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point you make, because I mean, all that was old is new again, and people are having this resurgence in, love for even like the cards, the baseball card thing. You would think that it would be dead, but it looks like it opened up because of card games like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff,
Right.
and people see these at shows and they're like, "Oh, those are
Magic
cool.
cards.
What are those?"
Right. And they had never seen them before. So it's, it's an interesting, we didn't, at first, we only put them out as complete sets, and then I just later on did we had contracted with someone to put them out in the wax packs too. So you could have them, and everything was done in limited edition. So, we only did maybe 2,500 sets, or, so they're not, they're more collected because there was so few of them that went around.
Yeah, and I got to brag on this set too. I've looked at it so many times, but I don't know if you guys can see this. This is our man.
And there's the window behind. Oh, you can't see it from there, but yeah.
But yeah, this one had you and
John and Tim Ferranti.
Tim Ferranti, and there's John, and John and I are friends in real life. But yeah, I mean, how cool was it when you came together to make that set?
And it was
Kevin Bacon.
Yes,
it was fun. And John,
Terry Ackerman.
Yes.
The way I met John was for a small time. We also had a small store, collectible store called Just Imagine. And John was going to the Art Institute at the time, and he walked in to our store one day, and he's carrying these huge, like probably 20 by 30 paintings, and they were recreations of famous Monsters covers, and they were wonderful, acrylic paintings. And I just fell in love with his work right there, and we just built up a friendship. And then when we, he had done some other things for us with the magazine, but when this project, we decided to say he has such great range and styles that he was able to match, Jack Davis, who Jack had done a cover for my collector's guide. So he gave us the opportunity, because we'd have never been able to afford Jack at that point, to do 60 some card illustrations. So it was fun, and we had fun because we all took, we all wrote down all of our ideas for different cards, and then we picked the best ones between all of us that would work. So it was a fun thing. And then John also did 3 limited edition paintings for limited edition prints that we produced for Dark Shadows. We did a Barnabas Collins, a Laura Parker one, and a David Selby, and they all sold out because we did signed editions of those too.
Busy man, and again, I have to go back to the inspiration that you were, and it's this cycle though. We're inspired by people, and then we do things that inspire others, the next generation down. Like you mentioned, Jack with the style and everything. But isn't that the way it's supposed to be? I mean, I think
so. And I'm grateful because every so many shows I've had people come up to me that are in the business saying it was because of you. I was at your Zombie Jamboree, or I was at your fantasy film, or I have Tom's book, and you're the reason I got started in this business, and it makes you feel really good because you were the guy telling that to someone 20, 30, 40 years ago, and to hear someone let you know that you actually did make a difference. It's great because, when you're doing it, because you enjoy doing it. I was publishing and designing because that's what I enjoyed. So it's the perfect life, to be able to do things that you enjoy. A lot of this I was doing when I was had a full-time job too,
Yeah.
so, it was a lot of hours, but, in the long run, it's like, it was just definitely worth it just to get to meet so many people and enjoy life that way.
He's nice.
Now, you speak of John's work. Now, I want to show people that may not be aware that you are an amazing painter all your own. I mean, I was looking at the pictures that you had sent, and these are just beautiful, and they capture not only the character, but a moment of nostalgia, because the way that you paint those are so illustrative of that. I love the styles of the paintings that you do.
Well, thank you. I sort of, again, like Basil Gogos, like all of us, so my style semi emulates, his style. So it was the one painting I did there of Chris Lee from Curse of Frankenstein.
Mhm.
I actually, at one time in my life, owned the original Gogos that was used on the famous Monsters cover. And at a desperate time when, we all need money, I had sold it off. And, yeah, exactly. But, things happen. But I got to own it for a while. But so, I just do mainly the paintings for my own enjoyment. I've really not done much to commercialize them. I did do them in a magazine format, that's called Bob Michelucci's Monstrous Portfolio, so that they're all in one place. But, so
Like somebody else in his paintings.
so it's fun, but I can't, now, it's just going to be fun. I can't wait to get down to Florida in a couple weeks here to be at the Phantasm Orlando show.
Yeah, that's next on the book, Phantasm. Are you bringing anything special with you for that event?
Well, for this show, since I have to lug it in luggage mostly, I'm going to have my 8x10s, and my wife will have 8x10s. She was called the Zombie Mom in the Night of the Living Dead 30th Anniversary Edition. She also has some shots of her from Dawn of the Dead, but she ended up on the cutting room floor, so we still have some of those. So we'll have the 8x10s. I have some of my books. I have some Scope Zombie T-shirts and baseball caps and a few other surprises. But also, and I've only done this one other time, on Saturday, I'm going to be in makeup for some of the day, the Scope Zombie makeup. So people will be able to get a selfie with me as the Scope Zombie. And one unique thing I had made up was I have a couple plexiglass panels that have the scope on the panel that you can hold that up to you, so it looks like you're a Scope Zombie too. It should be a fun time.
Well, if you need any help at all, we'll have all of our makeup stuff too at the booth, so I don't mind lending anything or helping out.
Yeah, well, that's terrific. It's like just a bonus for me.
Yeah. And before we go, I definitely want to tell people about your Living Dead estate sale. That's going on again a little bit later this month, correct?
Yeah, actually, next weekend.
There you go.
I just have too much stuff. So, we did it once a few weeks ago, and this is going to be an encore edition. And a lot of people were able to find things. I just have a lot of autographs and some props and a lot of memorabilia that I just don't have the room for in my house anymore. And rather than it just sitting here stacked up or in my garage, I was able to pull out when I was publishing, I would sort of put a case of every book and magazine away in my garage. So I haven't had a car in my garage for years, but
it sounds very familiar.
We pulled all of those out. So I have those all at the show. So there's mint copies of practically every Questar issue, every Scream Queens issue. I found a box of first printing Tom Savini Grand Illusions. There's another box of first printing Dick Smith books. And if you look on eBay, they're going crazy with that stuff. So there's a number of those types of finds that are at my estate sale.
Wow. Well, I wish I were closer that I could actually attend and check that out. But I definitely look forward to meeting you in person again at Phantasm, and that's
Same here.
August 19th through the 21st. So yeah, coming close.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to just meeting hopefully as many fans as make it there as possible. I
Yeah.
haven't been. This is my first show in all of these years that I've ever done in Florida.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun because I've been to a lot of states, but for some reason this is the first show in Florida.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because I think you were supposed to come last year and you had to cancel.
Yeah, we had to cancel because of some issues, some family issues,
Yeah.
but luckily everything is set for this time.
So now, yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. But I'll be there watching and hopefully getting to shake the hand of the man that inspired me through his work. So thank you so much.
Well, and I get to shake the hands of the fans, so I appreciate that too. And I appreciate you having me on here.
Thank you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
So yeah, I hope I didn't fanboy too much, but yeah, I am really, really excited to be meeting Bob at Phantasm this year. So we get to be fanboys and girls, even amongst ourselves at shows like that. So yeah, and this show also, this edition of Monster Manor, it's not only in a different time, but unfortunately we don't have Boris because, as you know, he is a full-time employee of the Master, and we only get him on the weekends when he can to mostly to give us his color commentary and break things. So we do have a special thing to show you from Boris because we can't do a show without him, at least in some form or fashion, aside from me wearing my little pin. So we have this little blooper reel to show you
little pin. Show people
from.
your pins.
Oh, we'll
I
get to
can't
that.
see that.
We will get to that. But right now it's the blooper reel that everyone loves to see. So for the first time here on the show, roll it.
Those interviews with Boris, maybe Boris bloopers, maybe Boris bloopers, maybe Boris bloopers. Boris don't make that many mistakes, but when he does, it's a doozy. That's what you see. But go to allocomicandtoyshow.com and see what's gonna goodness gonna happen. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Boris and his friend Rupert. For you. It's gonna be a great time. Hosted by Orlando Collector Deviants. And we again. That'd be a break, Francis Maker. All right. You made me break character, god damn it. Yes, I need the drink. I need the whatever the hell that peanut butter shit is at the fridge. It's a wonderful show. Wonderful run because the fence to make them up in the head. All right, here we go. Let them eat, by the way. Hey, horror fans and comic fans and other fans of stuff like that.
Do you want to during this thing,
Okay.
the
You know we wasting film.
trail
All right, 3, 2, 1, space.
website?
All right, here we go. Hey, Boris has been guilted into doing wonderful spots for people, and they don't pay him, but because Spencer to make it done throw guilt at him, say Boris do the promo. So that's what Boris did. And producer lady said if you don't go, she'll punch you in the face.
Okay, and
Don't talk over Boris this time. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, Boris and Rupert here to tell you. Hey, Boris.
I'm sorry.
You're talking over Boris! By the way, producer lady is OnlyFans called Punch in the Face. Producer lady, she spanked you, she punched you in the face, she degrade you. All for only $15.99 a month. 9 o'clock, Monster Manor. What the hell? And Scott will sell pictures of his feet. So, feet pictures, some lady punch you in the face with the chocolate. That's what we have stooped to.
What did he say?
Mother. Okay, we tried to get. Hit this out, okay. It's undead Shakespeare. The human torch was denied a bank. Oh, okay. Puya.
There you go. And broadcast.
Boris don't make that many mistakes, but when he does, it's a doozy.
So yeah, now you see why we keep him around. It's not just about the sarcasm and the acerbic wit. It's Boris is a pretty cool guy. Are we still getting censoring beeps?
No, we're good.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, yeah, we got the little Boris disclaimer pins because we always have to say disclaimer during his diatribes because it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to offend someone.
Somebody.
Someone is going to get offended, and we just try to head it off at the
Mostly
pass.
it's us that's offended.
Yeah. Yeah, we're offended for you. But yeah, we are going to be appearing at Phantasm Orlando, as we said. Monster Manor is going to be right out front, greeting all the fans when you come through the main doors. And that's August 19th through 21st. We're also going to be in, where is that? It's Merritt Square on the Space Coast end of things. Where is that? Like, not Melbourne. Melbourne? Merritt Island?
Merritt Island.
Merritt Island, at the Halloween family fun event.
Oh, look, you're on the poster.
So,
I didn't even realize that.
I am.
Aren't you cute?
I am on the poster this year.
Oh, that shirt is garbage.
It's old. See no respect for my loved ones. But that's sponsored by the Backyard Superstore, and it's for the Veterans Cemetery Restoration, which is a really good nonprofit. They do a lot of work to bring them back up to a good standard because a lot of them have just been allowed to become dilapidated over the years, and through fun drives like this, they are able to do full restorations on the yeah. I mean, it's beautiful the work that they do, and then of course Veteran City as well. So yeah, Bruce Rothschild and his wife Joy, they're very near and dear to my heart. I would support them in anything that they do. Last few years, it's been so difficult with, with the COVID and that sort of thing. 29th. So October 29th, we'll be visiting them, and we hope to see you all out there. It's a great family event inside the mall. There is going to be out in the parking lot a trunk or treat for the kids. So I'll be there. I am like the lowest man on the totem pole.
There's going to be a trunk or treat?
A trunk or treat, yeah, on the 29th.
You didn't tell me that.
You should read me your emails. You're doing exactly what Boris is doing.
I didn't get an email. You just told me that you were going to email me, but you didn't email me. So guess what? You can't depend on me being there and being there to help you because I'm trick or treating.
It's on the 29th. Halloween isn't until the 31st.
I don't care. I'm going to trick or treat there too because I'm a big fat kid. I don't like chocolate.
You sound totally different without your bullhorn. You should really.
I'm not in the booth today.
Oh, well, tomorrow night you will be in the booth.
Yes, I will be.
And last but not least, though, we do have Krampus Con coming up. I believe that's
December 2nd
through 4th. Krampus Con, and that is at the Palm International
Palms Resort in
Cocoa Beach. So we have gone to their other event, their sister event, which is the Space Coast Comic Con, where I've been blessed to know these guys from. So Krampus Con is the first.
2 Spacey Awards.
Yeah, I did, but
I'm bragging. That's my job.
Yeah, you're bragging, but gosh,
not 1 but 2.
Gosh, but yeah, and what's cool is last year, I don't know because I'm not a judge this year in any form or fashion, but last year they had some really cool videos or movies in the Shock Reel Cinema Film Festival, which is really awesome.
Oh, and you're talking about at Phantasm. I thought you were talking about it.
No, at Phantasm.
Space Coast, and
at Phantasm. And this year, we were also very privileged. I don't know if you can see that very clearly.
It's dark
but these are going to be the trophies that the winners of the film festival win at this year's Shock Reel Film Festival at Phantasm. So it's even got the little logo wheel. And our studio had the honor to produce these. So I can't wait to see all the faces of, and see, I can bring this out now because Boris isn't here to break it.
This is true.
He's a very nice man, but
locked away.
So
in a cabinet.
So yeah, those will be available to the winners and winners only at Shock Reel Cinema. And we know that Shelley Stokes and the rest of the team at Phantasm are working their butts off to make this a good event for everyone. Also, I can mention this as well. This is going to be only available, and I'm sorry for those that are looking at this online, but this is only available for people that are on the official Phantasm Facebook group. So if you go to Facebook and you sign up for the, I believe it's just Phantasm official group. There are two different ones. There's one that's for the actual Phantasm, and then there's the group with the fans. And if you sign up, if you click on that and follow that, you can actually pre-order these. There are only 15 sets of these pins that are going to be produced.
Are going to be a full set.
That are a full set. So you have the Monster Manor glow in the dark that has Phantasm 2022 on it.
And
it glows in the dark. You have the Dracula as seen in our opening credits. The Boris disclaimer pin, producer's lady's megaphone,
my bullhorn,
and then if you wind up on this list, you don't want to be on this list, but this is the official Pooey pen, which also glows in the dark. And then there's a nice thank you letter on there. So again, this is for the fans of both Phantasm and Monster Manor and all of the good stuff that they do over there. So again, if you sign up on their official page, it's Facebook and then the Facebook official group. And you can pre-order it. And what we do is if you pay for it and you're going to the event, you can pay for it in advance, pick it up at the event. So you can show up Friday, Saturday, Sunday and pick it up. Or if you are outside of the area or cannot go, if something happens and you can't go, you can have them shipped to you, but there's an additional price for shipping, unfortunately. But
and whatever doesn't sell out pre-ordered will be available at the show. So
at the show, yes, but limited.
Get one, there's a possibility.
Yeah, and you get a discount for buying the full set. Plus, it comes on this frameable art. Whereas if you were to buy individually, you're going to pay a little bit more. So if you're interested in pin collecting, it's kind of a neat thing. And we've got a bunch of other things that we're going to be debuting at Phantasm, like magnets and all sorts of things.
They want to know, how do they get an autograph photo of Scott and the producer lady? The producer lady? Nobody?
Yeah, we'd have to block her face with. Who asked that question?
I'm just somebody watching. I mean, I guess I could. I'm the man behind the camera. I'm the. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. You know, I'm the whiz.
Yeah. So, anything that you get with her picture in it is probably going to have a megaphone in front of it.
I'll sign your megaphone.
Yeah. But yeah, we will all be. The whole team will be at Phantasm Orlando, so you'll get to meet us there. But we're gonna have to do like because we have photos of Boris, we have photos of me, but the elusive producer lady, she doesn't have any pictures because Boris keeps saying that she's gonna have pictures of her feet, and I think it's more appropriate that they just be the chancla.
I'll sign sandals.
Yeah, sign chanclas for people. That's an
what
inside
I beat
thing.
Boris with.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll work on that though. We'll do some sort of cast photo. Again, we never intended on this exploding like it has, but this is a big thing for us because you guys have found us to be cool enough to take into your home every week when we do these shows. We're going to be on Tingler TV. Actually, we started with this past Monday. So we're on Tingler Television, tinglertelevision.com. And I think that's about it. Do we have any other commercials to run or anything like that?
No, but our time slot is Mondays. We're on
7:30 right now. I think it's going to be going to 7 starting this following Monday.
I thought you said 8.
7.
Okay.
7 until like 9:30. I think our slot is
7:30 on Mondays on Tingler Television. Go to tinglertelevision.com and there's directions on how to get the service or whatever.
Because it streams through Strim, Roku, Fire, It's it's IPTV at its best. So, and it's great content. That's the cool thing, is I kind of put it on and just let it go all day. It's a lot of older classic movies that you would have seen on the drive-throughs or the drive-through theater, drive-in theaters, and that sort of thing. So it's really an homage to that. And then all the horror hosts. Boris is going to have his show on there as well. Yes, there will be a Boris show. So all sorts of fun stuff. So check out www.tinglertelevision.com. And until tomorrow, this is Monster Manor. Tomorrow we'll be talking with Eugene Clark. So our regular time slot tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, we'll be on with Eugene Clark, who's also going to be at Phantasm this month. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about his time on the stage as Mufasa and all the other Tech War. He was with William Shatner and Greg Evigan on Tech War series. So yeah, it's going to be cool. So join us tomorrow night. I'll try to be rested and ready to go. And hopefully Boris will be back tomorrow in his regular time slot. So again, thank you all for hanging out with us for another hour. Check us out on all of our other social medias, and we will see you tomorrow.
You have created a monster and it will destroy you. She's alive! Alive!
I am Dracula.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. I wasn't here to break anything. Fence to burger, fence to bastard, all that stuff. See you at Phantasm. Hey, Monster Kids. Thanks for hanging out for another episode of Monster Manor. Do us a favor, though, and hit the bell to get reminders of when we add new content. Subscribe to our channel, and while you're waiting for new shows, check out our website at www.monstermanor1313.com. New content at least every other week, sometimes even more often. Like and follow our Facebook page as well for other content. And lastly, if you want to help us out, check out our Patreon under Monster Manor with Scott Fenster. Thanks for hanging out until the end.